Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I'm your host, Maryann Petri, and since 2016, Monica Shimonik has been coaching moms and dads as they navigate through the treacherous waters of the family law racket. Aside from workshops, which helps with specific problems, her 12-week signature course, The Best Interest of the Parent, uses a 4-quadrant model to create a robust healing and empowerment system so that you control the narrative in your life, not the state. Use coupon code SLAMTHEGAVEL to get 10% off her course. And the website will be included in the podcast notes. I am bringing back onto the show Cordell Ellis. He was on last week, and he was talking about his book, The 40-Mile Journey. And we didn't get into, because we ran out of time, on his message for the book and how it's going to help other people. And I totally welcome you, Cordell. How are you doing?
Good morning. Thank you. Again, I appreciate the opportunity that you've given me to share on your platform.
Well, I'm so sorry we ran out of time last time, and I didn't give you a chance to explain how you're going to use your book to help today's youth.
Okay. Again, I appreciate the opportunity. And I intend on utilizing my book as a tool that I'm going to incorporate a workbook with it.
Mm-hmm.
And the workbook is actually for different stages of growth of youth and others. And when I mention others, I mean adults also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But focusing on the youth, the workbook I would like to utilize as tool to accommodate the youth, where they're able to recognize certain things within their lives that they can relate to. And I say that as far as them being able to recognize bullying, certain things that affect them internally that also affects their outward behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they are able to voice exactly what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I would like to utilize the workbook as a tool where they can share their thoughts, and maybe a teacher or someone can identify with what they're experiencing and be able to look into or investigate exactly what is going on,
Mm-hmm.
and intervene,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to prevent some of the actions that are occurring in the lives of our youth.
That is so good. You want to be able to get this workbook when you get it published and everything into the schools. So
Yes, ma'am.
yes, and that would really help if the teachers can incorporate it into everyone's studies.
Right. And that also enables the youth to identify with certain things that they may not already recognize. And you have to be able to give the youth a voice. You have to be able to have that effective communication and open dialogue with them,
Mm-hmm.
but they have to have someone that they can trust to open up to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the workbook enables them to do, to identify and have positive reinforcement behind it.
Definitely. And they need that because some of these, young kids are coming from very unstable homes.
Correct. And also the youth, they readily need a support system that they can trust, because keep in mind, school just started maybe a week or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognize that there's so many incidents that are occurring now that could have been rectified if someone knew exactly what was going on
Mhm.
ahead of time.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
and this is actually a serious epidemic that is going on, not just in the state that I reside in, the state of Louisiana, city of New Orleans, but in other cities and states as well.
Mhm.
And someone has to take the initiative, not after the fact, but being proactive prior
Right.
to things happening.
Right. It's that like a proactive workbook.
Correct, correct,
Mhm.
correct. And it would be different workbooks for different age groups. Like I would have one identifying with the elementary school children, middle school children, and high school children.
Yeah, that's a great idea, actually.
Yeah, and that would assist them in whatever area they are being affected in. Especially from my perspective, where I've experienced a lot of the trauma
Mhm.
that some of these children are experiencing.
Mhm.
And I utilized my story because I felt as though I didn't have a support system or anyone to reach out to.
Mhm.
So when I reflect back, now I try to instill that in youth and in others to be able to reach out to someone, even if you can't confide with your parents at home, be able to reach out to someone at your school that you can trust and confide in.
Mhm. A lot of these kids have trust issues and, you know, they're just even afraid to go to a counselor, some of them.
Yeah, that's why it's proactive to have the workbook
Mhm.
where they can share some of their thoughts on paper rather than speaking it out. They can
Right.
share it on paper, and when the teacher or someone reads over it, they're able to recognize it. That way, it's not like they are snitching. I mean,
Mhm.
it's kind of, you know, confidential the way you do things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids, I think it's easier for them to write down their feelings and actually talk it out, even with the counselor or their parents. Just
Correct, correct,
easier.
correct.
I think it's great
Right.
that you've come up with this idea to have workbooks for, grade school, middle school, and high school. How soon, I mean, you may not know, but how soon can you get these workbooks going, do you think?
Honestly, I don't actually have a timetable on it because I'm actually reaching out and seeking assistance where somebody can assist me with actually putting the curriculum together
Mhm,
and
mhm.
formatting it where it can be presented to the school.
Good. I think, I would hope the schools would be very receptive to this because of, these, families. There's divorce in families. There's, maybe a death in the family. There could be a number of reasons why this workbook is so needed.
Correct, correct, correct. Um, I feel as though it would be receptive once I have it in hand. Once I have one in hand to be able to go to the schools and sit down and speak to the principals and present it, I believe
Mhm,
they will already be receptive
mhm,
because I do have a group that's working with me to go into the schools as far as speaking, but they didn't actually know about the workbook part.
mhm,
So that's the part I'm working on at the
mhm.
moment.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
now they know about the workbook part now. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
that's good. I mean, this is a brilliant idea, and based off your book, it's going to, help, change the future of a lot of young people.
Well, I'm really trying to make a difference. I'm really trying to impact their lives in a positive manner. Um, I truly care.
Mhm.
And this is my passion and my purpose to actually empower and inspire the youth to achieve their dreams, goals, and aspirations in life.
Mhm.
And when they recognize someone that has actually lived this particular life and experienced these particular things,
Mhm.
then we have something we can relate to and relate
Mhm.
with each other. Yeah.
Definitely. Even, if a parent becomes involved with the workbook with their child and say they've been through what you've been through, Cordell, and then they could also help communicate better with their child as to what
Correct.
to avoid in
Right,
life.
right,
Mhm.
right. But also, I encourage parents to read my book because
Mhm.
it enables them to be able to recognize there's always signs and warnings before destruction, and you're able to recognize when a child is having a problem. They may start acting out, but the parent has to be able to recognize these certain um, red flags that go up prior to something happening, and the parent is able to reach out and act, you know, what is going on, or have a conversation with your child, um, to find out exactly if something is affecting them,
Mhm.
you know.
There needs to be more effective communication in the home because everyone seems to be on their cell phones. And they're either talking to their friends on the cell phone, they're playing games on their cell phone. I was at a restaurant. It was like maybe a couple months ago, but there was a family sitting there and they had 3 kids. They were all on their cell phones and they had to be under the age of 12 or so.
Right,
It's like they should be putting those down and having a family conversation.
right. But I mean, all of this starts with the parent.
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of times the parents are the ones that are actually enabling this behavior
Mhm.
because the children are only mimicking what the parent does.
Mhm.
Um, but they have to have boundaries. They have to have certain rules and regulations that the parents instill within the child that the parent are consistent with enforcing, um, that the child can adapt to. But they always have to have reasoning behind it. You're not just having the child do something, but you have to have some reasoning and something to support why or what you're doing and the reasoning behind what you're doing.
Mhm.
Everybody needs balance in their life, and you just can't incorporate everything with the phone.
Mhm. Yeah,
It
because
takes away from the social being of a relationship.
exactly. Exactly. And I think we may have had this conversation in our last podcast, which was just to let everyone know that that was season 2, episode 86 is when you were on last. And we had talked about how people just aren't personable anymore. And, or I would even say, I don't know, they're just not friendly anymore. They're on their phones. Everything has to be
Right.
quick and easy and get it done and immediate gratification right now.
Right. Correct. Correct. That's why I try to instill progress as a process
Mhm.
and understanding children's the age that you allow them to be consumed with these phones.
Mhm.
Some parents go to sleep and the children will be on the phone all night. Not
Mhm.
and the parent doesn't even know that the child has been on the phone all night. Then when they go to school, because they've been on the phone all night, they sleeping in the class. They're not able to pay attention
Mhm.
because they've been on the phone all night. But the parent, as the parent, should be able to retrieve the phone prior to going to bed, that they have the phone and that the child is going to sleep.
Right.
Um, just so many things that we have to start um, taking responsibility to being a parent,
Hmm.
and holding ourselves accountable to what our children are doing. Um, that's the only way constant change is going to come.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, there's accountability. Everyone needs to be held accountable for their actions. And today's youth, as we talked before, they act impulsively and then think about it later. There's consequences later.
Right. Then it's actually really too late.
Hmm.
You reside in Pennsylvania, but one of our officers from New Orleans was shot and killed in Houston on a vacation at a restaurant
Hmm.
by two youth over the weekend. That's very traumatic.
Mm.
Um, and the sad part about this is that the victims had given these youth their property that they wanted, and the youth still did that.
Mm.
Yeah,
Oh, that's terrible.
yeah, very terrible, very. Um, it's just so unfortunate
Mm.
that this senseless crime is becoming so rampant,
Hmm.
and the parents have no idea that their children are actually involved in this type of behavior. You know,
Mm.
when the someone comes knocking at your door to arrest your child, and the first thing you say is, "My child didn't do it." Well, if you don't have anything to support your child didn't do this, who are you to say your child didn't do this?
Hmm.
You know, you have to be aware of what your child is doing, where your child is at, and the company your child is keeping.
Hmm.
Um, because it only takes a second
Hmm.
for someone that your child is associated with at that particular point in time to do something, and it's going to have some long lasting effects,
Hmm.
you know?
And and the youth, they don't realize that when they make an impulsive decision, they don't realize the repercussions and the outcome of what is going
Correct.
to be involved. And it could be long-term involvement, such as prison. They don't realize
Yeah,
this.
very, very, very long, very long, very,
Hmm.
yeah.
Oh.
Because this at this point in time, they actually will charge juveniles as adults
Hmm.
because of um the crime that they've committed.
Hmm.
And like I said, some things you just can't get a slap on the wrist for.
Hmm.
You know, it's very unfortunate, but if a child makes that decision, then I mean, you have to look from the victim perspective too,
Hmm.
not just from what a child done, but the extent of what you've done.
Hmm.
You know, sorry don't bring people back.
Right. Right.
You know,
Oh,
that's
how
good. You
tragic.
know, yeah. You know, I'm sorry, don't doesn't do that.
Hmm.
You
It,
know.
it, some people will say, well, with these kids, their brains aren't fully developed until they hit age 26. But, there's also, the age of reasoning, which is 7 or 8 years old, where they know wrong from right, or at least they should have been taught wrong from right.
Well,
Mm.
children instinctively know if you observe your child growing up. Children actually are instinctively know right from wrong. And that's why it's so important that you are disciplining and training your child in the proper way, proper manner.
Mhm.
Um, because the parent is still responsible and liable for whatever the child does until they become 18. So it would be in the parent's best interest to know exactly what your child is involving themselves in.
Oh, I agree. I
Yeah,
agree. They should really be knowing exactly what their next moves are, where they're going to be, what time they're coming home.
exactly,
You know.
exactly. And it's not a invasion of privacy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as a child grows older, you may give them a little more leeway, but you still, being a parent, you're still supposed to be able to know who your child is associated with. You're the parent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there should be no groups that your child is associated with that you don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
There should be nowhere that your child is gone that you don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
That's all part of being a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because you care. Your child isn't just wandering around doing whatever and you
Mm-hmm.
don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the red flags come up, and that's when the trouble comes up. But you're able to recognize it through their grades. All you have
Mm-hmm.
to do is pay attention through their grades. That's one way of finding something wrong in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
But the parent has to be engaged in the child's life, in all aspects of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know
Yeah,
there are some parents that are, for some reason or another, aren't even allowed to be in the child's life through either a no contact court order, which is ridiculous, uh, especially if there's no reason why they can't be in their lives, um, provided there's no abuse or anything. But some
correct.
parents are, their hands are tied. They're just watching from afar while their child is making mistakes, and they're not allowed to intervene because some judge wrote a ridiculous order for no contact.
Right,
I feel sorry for those parents because then when something happens, then they're blamed for something their child did. And why weren't you on it? Well, they weren't allowed to be because of a court
right,
order.
right. But I mean, there's no way you can be blamed for something you're not allowed to
Mm-hmm.
participate in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if your hands are tied, your hands are tied.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the judicial system isn't always fair.
Mm-mm.
Um, and we continue today to try to reform that.
Right.
Yeah, but it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of people to make a difference. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, that those people do not um, see anything wrong with the system until
Mm-hmm.
to something affects them,
Right. Right.
and then they will say something, but only until something affects them directly or indirectly.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as nothing affects them, then everything is all right and okay. But it isn't always that way.
No, I agree with you there. Yeah, until it happens, you know, to you, then you get it.
Right,
And
right, right.
it's
Then you can, right, right. Then they can relate to it because they are experiencing it. They're not just on the outside looking in.
mm-hmm.
They're on the inside wondering what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And then they're reaching out for guidance. And I guess I guess that's why you and I are here today talking, is to inform people and let people know, to keep an eye on your kids. We've got a great book here, The 40 Mile Journey. We've got workbooks that are going to be coming about here, hopefully within a year, that can evolve, and you can go into the schools and show the superintendents and principals, these workbooks, and how it can help prevent things that shouldn't happen to begin with.
Correct, correct, correct. Because a lot of times, even the school teachers and the principals, they aren't able to recognize the signs.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be always proactive
Mm-hmm.
and be able to intervene, and also set up programs for conflict resolution. A lot of times, certain things happen, but if the students involved just sit down at a table, they're able to rectify the situation that they thought was so big, actually maybe so small.
Right, right.
And sometimes it's just um a person thinking one thing and another person thinking another, but nobody has actually voiced anything, and
Mm.
both of them are thinking the wrong thing.
This happens. Yeah, they're making a
Yeah,
mountain out of a molehill. Right.
exactly, exactly, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is fueled by the company that's around you, the peer pressure.
Right. And
You know,
and the
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 people.
bullying. I'm sorry.
Right, right. The people that actually instigate things, and there's always these instigators
Mm-hmm.
um that stand back and kind of puppet people to do things, or they want to see other people do things, but they're not the ones willing to do that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, most
um
definitely. Mm-hmm.
you have to be able to recognize, like I said, that company.
Yeah, and some of these young people, they don't recognize the company that they're keeping could be so detrimental to their future.
Well, everybody wants to be involved, part of the in crowd. Nobody actually wants to be on a path of doing their own thing. As far as being a leader, a lot of children actually want to be the followers. That way, you don't stand out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of them are being manipulated, manipulated into doing stuff that they actually really don't want to do. But
Right. And they're easily manipulated because, I don't know, they want to be liked, they want to be accepted, so they'll go along with things that they should not be going along with.
right, but at what cost?
Right. Oh, at a heavy cost. And
Yeah, at
they don't
what
realize.
cost?
Mm-hmm.
Right, right. Because when something goes extremely wrong, the person who's involved is there by themselves,
Right.
not the people who actually instigated the situation, but the ones who were actively participating
Mm-hmm.
in the situation. And that's my purpose, goal, cause, vision, and
Mm-hmm.
objective, is to be able to intervene and reach out to them prior to anything going on. Being able
Mm-hmm.
to assist them with recognizing everyday challenges, obstacles, and hurdles that they may come in contact with, that I help them properly navigate through.
Definitely. Because, and again, some of these kids, maybe they've lost a parent and that other parent is working, you know, a, a lot of hours and they can't really keep a good eye on their child.
Right, but
You
you
know.
also have parents that are involved in negative
Mm-hmm.
behavior, that the child is brought up in this environment, that the abnormal stuff seems normal because the parent is doing it.
Right.
You know? That's an everyday occurrence.
Yeah, that's and kids watch what their parents are doing, so they're like mimicking what their parents are doing.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
as an
Not what
example.
they're saying. Right, right, right. Exactly.
Yeah, you said it really good there that, you know, the abnormal stuff to the kids seems normal.
Right.
It
And they're getting it from their parents. They're getting it from at home.
mhm.
They're seeing this. So if the parent is doing it, you growing up in this environment of right and wrong, you start to see, well, must be okay because, this is what is going on in my household.
Mhm.
So it's
Definitely.
um it's difficult. It's
Mhm.
difficult to import change, but change is constant and change is necessary.
It is necessary, and it's I think your workbooks and your book is necessary, you know, for everyone to read. And it will just do the world a lot of good for people to read what you've been through and get these workbooks out there into the schools.
Right, right. Because somebody has to take the initiative
Mhm.
from a first-hand perspective. And I truly believe in it's going to take a collective effort where I'm able to collaborate with the principals and the teachers and the counselors
Mhm.
um, to impact change.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, I really hope they are receptive and are able to do this and work with you because it has to be done.
correct.
These kids are our future, and it would be better to stop a problem before it turns into something much worse.
Right, right, right. And it's just being able to incorporate change.
Mhm.
And at this point in time, with things going on, I truly believe once I have the workbooks in hand, everything else will fall in place. I have no doubt
Mhm.
that it won't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a counseling session, you know, with the workbooks they can express themselves and, you know, it can create discussion.
Right, right, right. And you have to have a means of enabling them to get it out.
Right.
And like I said, a lot of times they may not be able to voice it,
Mhm.
but they can share the thoughts on paper.
Right.
And that's a way of doing it in confidence
Mhm.
that you sharing it on paper, and the only one who actually reads it is the teacher, the counselor,
Mhm.
and somebody can take the initiative to look into it.
Now that's an excellent idea.
Yeah. So.
I think that's great. Oh, I'm glad to have you back on the show. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Uh no, I really just appreciate your platform, and I appreciate the opportunities that you are enabling me with to share what I'm trying to do, my initiative, and how I'm trying to actually impact the lives of youth,
Mhm.
not just at-risk youth, but all youth,
Mhm.
in a positive manner.
Yeah, definitely. And I wish, you know, we could have talked about this on our last podcast, but it would be too long. And I didn't want to make it too long of a podcast. And so I thought, well, why not bring you back on and we'll discuss this part, which would be really great for people to hear.
And this was perfect. This
Mhm.
was a perfect opportunity to reinforce what I spoke about on the last podcast, because the
Definitely.
last podcast was actually about the book and um, the reasoning behind me penning the book in the first place.
Hmm.
Yes, so
This is going to be great. And I wish you the best of luck. And I'll probably have you back on again to see how progress is going. So I thank you very much, Cordell. Don't jump off, okay?
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in the family courtrooms. I'm your host, Maryann Petri, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again with Cordell and other guests in the future. Thank you, Cordell.
Thank you.